see. All right, we're about 2.5 minutes in, so let me just get a brief intro. So for those that don't know, I'm Master Chief Tony Martinez, officer in charge of Coast Guard Cutter Shearwater here in Cape May. I was previously officer in charge at Station Eaton's Neck on Long Island in New York. So got a little bit of experience under the belt, and wanted to talk to you guys tonight about command climate and just talk about that specifically. With when you sit in for the board, you want to make sure that you're conveying the command climate that you're actually going to use. You don't want to answer the way that you think that the board wants to hear you. You want to be genuinely yourself, and it's important because it helps with this process, and it'll help you get through this process as well. And at the end of the day, when we're a board panel membership, we're looking to see the real you and how you're going to make these decisions, how you're going to take care of you folks, how you're going to foster a positive command climate. So today I'm going to be using just a PowerPoint from the LDC from the PCO course, just as a guideline. I'm not going to go through it word for word and slide by slide, but just to kind of get some talking points going up there. So with your command climate, the first thing, I'm pretty sure it was already covered in one of the previous topics, but a command philosophy is pretty huge in setting the tone for that command climate. So you want something that's realistic and that's you. You want to make sure that you're living that document that you created, and that you're coming across as such to the panel membership that you believe in the document. Because if they get the slightest hint, or if we as panel members get the slightest hint that you're not being genuine, that could come into question. So we want to make sure that you are genuinely putting your best foot forward, and that you as an OIC will handle situations correctly and properly with the best judgment possible. So so command philosophy is huge in building that command climate, and it's basically your cornerstone of it. So you got to get that command philosophy out there, and you got to get people to buy into it. And on officer in charge board, whether it's sector, district, area, what have you, we're looking to make sure that the answers to your questions are in accordance with your command philosophy and the command climate that you're trying to get across. So command philosophy versus leadership philosophy. So command philosophy. So I look at this as your command philosophy. The way I did mine, at Eaton's Neck and now at Shearwater, is almost come out with like a mission statement at the top, just kind of a who we are to define us, and then just the principles that I expect the crew to live by, and I live by myself. So my command philosophy was take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of our community. So that's what I came out with for Eaton's Neck. I'll be actually unveiling Shearwater's pretty soon here, this next week or two. It's going to be very similar to that, but so where leadership philosophy, that's a little bit more. I think that's a little bit more broad. That's kind of reaching out over your just different leadership style just within like among the Coast Guard. But I think your command philosophy is more kind of specific to your unit, and I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference between the two, but I think that your leadership, how you lead your folks, they'll see right away whether you are genuine with your philosophy or not. And I think your command philosophy is a little bit more specific to your unit, but that doesn't always mean that it just has to be about your unit. But your leadership philosophy is a little bit more broad, I think, in my opinion. Does that make sense? Hopefully I didn't ramble too much with that. So along with on this PowerPoint here, they talk about your command philosophy, your command climate, and your command relationships. And I think that those are pretty. Your command relationships are important too, because the first folks you got to get to buy in right away are your XBO and your EPO. And you're going to want to bring them in to the situations on the boards as well too. Because you have, you're not a one-man show. The command, your leadership team, it's a collective group of you, your XPO, your ops, your EPO. So involve them in the conversations. You want to make sure that you do that for sure. So though they're going to be the first ones to buy in. So you want to make sure that, in order to kind of establish the credibility with the crew, that, right away, that your EPO and your XPO kind of keep you honest to what the pulse of the crew is. So you want to make sure that they're steering you in the right direction, and that they understand what it is that you're trying to come across with too. So I know that I've got a quote from Admiral Schultz that I'd like to share with everybody. That's just I think it's a very important one, and it kind of speaks to earlier today when they were doing the virtual town hall, and this actually speaks to it pretty well. They define command climate as a workplace free from discrimination and harassing behaviors, enables us to leverage our uniquely trained, empowered, and equipped people to effectively face our nation's current challenges and prepare for future ones. Such a workplace allows the Coast Guard to be ready, relevant, and responsive to the nation's maritime needs. Therefore, we will respect those we serve and those who serve with us. Every member of our workforce has the right to be treated with dignity and respect. So that's directly from the Commandant. Do I use peer review? I can't really say that I have used a whole lot of peer review. I mean, what? Can you just clear that up a little bit, John? I'm guessing you're talking about like the OIC network, like using the OIC network for different tasks. Just for bouncing ideas off of. So your command climate, what you're looking for with your unit is you want to right away, do people feel comfortable coming into the unit? If you have if you have a guest, do they feel that you are welcoming them? Do they feel like, if it's an inspection team, we all know inspections, and we deal with inspections, and they're a bit of a lift on the crew, and we deal with it and whatnot, but you got to make sure that that's one of the pillars of a good command climate, is that they come in, they feel welcome. It's not it's not that old vibe of the way things used to be way back in the day with the kind of adversarial mindset, so to speak. So you want to make sure that you want to set that kind of tone, so to speak. See Logan on there. What's up, Heath? Good to see you there. So you want to, when you take care of the crew, that's the big thing right here, I guess, for command climate in my eyes, is you want to make sure that if you're saying that you're people first, that you're answering questions as though you're people first. If every scenario that comes up and your first instinct is to hammer them and to discipline folks, then we're going to question how much are you really into taking care of people versus just living off the UCMJ kind of thing. So different leadership decisions. There's many ways to handle many different scenarios. But if you're going to come into the board talking about being a people person, we want to see it. You got to be genuine about that. So, what are some signs you have seen in a poor command climate? So, just going back to what I was talking about with, stand visits. I can remember stand visits, 15 years ago, where it was very much an us against them kind of mindset, and that was in a pretty terrible command climate that I experienced in the past. There's a lot of folks trying to get each other in trouble, so to speak. It's kind of like a dog eat dog, so to speak, environment. You see people don't take ownership in things, and there's also a lot of finger pointing as well. So those are some of the things, that you want to kind of get away from, the old, the infamous section wars, and the section wars, that's something that exists in some cases, even in a positive command climate. But I guess it's all in how it manifests. If it's this section's like, we got 30 boardings this week, and the other section, yeah, well, we want to get more, and that's like you could use, that kind of competition could be a friendly thing, but when people are just trying to dime each other out for every little infraction, that's when you want to be concerned about that. But if you're on your board and, if you're going to handle different leadership scenarios with just straight up discipline, that's probably not a great sign. Now, sometimes there is a place absolutely for different types of discipline, but we don't always have to just go right to the UCMJ right away. There's many tools out there, that we've used in the past as well too, and such as Chiefs Council, things like that. You don't always have to go right for non-judicial punishment. There's many different ways you can get your point across, or EMI and whatnot. But so your command climate. So you want people to be, you want to create that environment where people want to come to work. They want to do great things. And you also want to create that climate where they can do something and not fear making a mistake. That's another one of those things that I've seen in poor command climates, is people are straight up afraid to make a mistake. And you can't have that. There's sometimes where things are not going to go 100% right, but as long as everyone is safe and sound, nobody got hurt, anything like that, then you can walk away from it and take the constructive part of it and kind of go from there. Let's see. I agree completely with you, Dale. That's a fantastic point. It's all about trust, and in those poor command climates, you see that mistrust. You see people, that just don't have any faith in the command, or really anybody else in general. It's a lot of individuals out there, and I've seen it on a couple different ends. So a couple different units, had some pretty poor command climates, and it's a hard thing to overcome after the fact. So is there any questions? I feel like I kind of rambled on a little bit, maybe. So I'll give you the poor command climate definition as noted on this LDC PowerPoint here. It's created by toxic leaders who exhibit destructive behaviors that demean and belittle shipmates, or a command with poor leadership, which results in acceptance of mediocrity and selective obedience. That's pretty accurate from what I've seen in the past. The biggest thing, I guess, is if you genuinely care about your folks, that's the easiest way to keep a positive command climate, is actually show genuine interest in what they do. If you have someone that is into whatever, cycling or what have you, talk to them about their hobbies, talk to them about their family lives, talk about that, because we just heard we just heard the Commandant and the Master Chief of the Coast Guard talk about, yes, the Coast Guard missions are the reason that we exist, and they're the reasons that we're in an area, but we can't do those missions without people, and that's where it starts, square one. So if we take care of people, then we can expect to see mission success, but that has to start there. All right, what challenges have you faced when it comes? All right, so Larry, so it's there's whenever you've had to you fall into like into a shortage of people, and you've only got one duty coxswain, that can cover a duty section kind of thing, and they just had something come up, and you had basically all of your options are off the table. You need to let this person go, and you're the only one that can take the duty. In that case, I took the duty because my command philosophy said that I need, that my people come first, and that, their problems are unit problems, and if they have to, take care of them and solve them, well, then I came in and I stood duty, and that's just what I did. I've tried very hard not to step out of my command philosophy, just because it is something that I believe in, and there's it's pretty. I put some pretty clear, cut and dry expectations on there. Some that were just like kind of automatic, automatic no's. Drug use kind of things. There's just the automatic no's that you can't step out of. So I've tried very hard to work within those bounds, and even recently, had a member that couldn't get underway, and it hampered us watch schedule wise, but I couldn't advertise people first command philosophy and then make the member get underway when it wasn't the right thing for them to do. So it's one of those things where I've tried to live by it and tried not to deviate from it very much at all. So I hope that answered your question, Larry. Okay, Carl, let's see. I've seen two types. No, I get it. I think what you're trying to say, Carl, is that people will give the trust right away. Give the trust until there's a reason not to trust them. Is that kind of what you're trying to come across there? Just because that's kind of how I'm reading that. You basically want to give folks the benefit of the doubt until they give you no reason to, and then you have to make leadership decisions on that, and that's, you want to give them that leeway right away to be able to make decisions. I don't want. One of the things that I've always strived for is, if you could make a decision, that could that could help a mission, succeed and whatnot, and if it's something that you didn't, that by our, by SORM or CORM or what have you, that you didn't have to notify me, and you wanted to kind of go out there and it succeeded, then I was okay with that. Let's see. Does work-life balance from the command play any role in having a positive command climate? Absolutely. So you can't. That's another thing, Logan. So you can't say that you're people first and your family first when you're a workaholic either. You have to create that balance. Now, granted, you're going to be, odds are, as the OIC, there are times where you're going to be there a lot more than the crew, and that's just the way it rolls. That's just how it happens sometimes. But you need to show the crew too that your own work life matters as well, because if you're telling them one thing but exhibiting a whole other thing, then you're kind of creating that mistrust right there. So it's one of those things where you wanna make sure that you're walking the walk, and that those words on a page aren't just words on a page that you cleverly came up with. So, Tom, when would you discipline your command cadre or not while trying to keep a positive command climate? So you wanna give folks chances. If you can, obviously, if something is severe enough, then yes, there's some things that have to document. But with your command cadre, you also want to be mindful of, that certain things could, severely alter someone's career. So you need to kind of make sure that, you've pulled that, command cadre member aside, so to speak, and they're like, hey, we got it. Like, the crew looks up to us to give them the direction, so we need to make sure that that we're setting the example for them, and that they understand, that they look to us for the guidance. So you want to make sure that So you want to kind of give them that, pull them aside, conversation, and be like, hey, things aren't right here, and we need you to fix it. So that's I would be not like too lenient, but at the same time I would probably pull XPO or EPO or ops aside, be like, hey, what's going on? So hope that answers your question, Tom. How do you determine if you have a good command climate? So I've always just kind of gauged it as one of the things I gauged was morale days. So you have a morale day, where you've got at a station, you've got your off-going crew. Does the off-going crew rush to go home for morale day, or do they stick around for a little while? Do they stay to do they stay for the event? Do they stay for a little bit, or do they say no, I'm out? When you are trying to put on, on Long Island, we did the the annual Nate Bruckendall softball tournament. How many people are trying to sign up for the thing? How many people are trying to sign up for the football tournament that we did? How many people are trying to get involved with those things? How many people are volunteering for your community activities? How many people are getting into those things? I think if people genuinely enjoy doing these morale type things at the unit, then I feel like you probably got a pretty good command climate there. If people are excited to tell you about the mission goals that they met over a busy duty weekend, if they're legitimately excited to tell you about it, then I would say that's a good indicator that you've got a good situation going on. Hey, Greg, I see you there. Good to see you online as well, brother. So, let's see. So we kind of covered that. And that's another thing too. Your own accountability as an officer in charge. If you messed up, it's as simple as, guys, I got that one wrong. You got to have that own accountability as well. Because if you don't take that accountability, you can't expect other people to, be accountable for what happened, when they're in that spot. So it all starts with you. The buck starts with you. So that's, let's see, specific measures. We talked about that. Here's a question for everybody. How many folks are required at a unit for a DOC survey? Okay, so how do you analyze your results from the survey? So we would take each set of results, and then we would kind of come up with an action plan. One of the things that I did was I took all the E6 and above that were at the unit, because we had a CS1, an SK1, MK1, and then the command cadre and the BM1, and we would all together talk about just your different, it's like what we could do, to kind of address the concerns of the crew, so to speak. We would do that all together and just kind of come up with different ways to solve any issues, or if we saw like a deficiency. So for example, in the DOC survey, one year we saw the people's knowledge of different sapper policies, that they weren't quite as the results weren't that great on their knowledge base. So we scheduled training, just things like that. You want to be there's sometimes where you're going to get that tough criticism, and you gotta own it. And there's some of it, that is definitely warranted. You can probably kind of tell what's criticism and what's really kind of complaining, so to speak. If you got a good feel for your unit, you could do that. So you want to make sure that you just address their concerns as long as granted that they're legitimate concerns, that kind of thing. You're not always going to please everybody, but and yes, you need 16 responses to generate a survey. And smaller units can just latch on to a sector. I agree with you, Jason. Pay grade meetings are absolutely helpful. We've actually did those as well too. I actually started those myself. Then as time went on, the first classes, said hey, senior, we got this. We'll take care of this for it. So they ended up kind of taking the lead on that after the fact. So I honestly don't know, Nick, if there's any other. I haven't personally used any other surveys. I've just kind of stuck with the pay grade meetings and just the DOCs. The last DOCs that we had didn't get enough responses for a survey, but we still ended up doing the pay grade meetings anyway, just to kind of get the pulse of the crew and just kind of to confirm some of the things that I would pick up on certain vibes at certain times, and I would kind of lean on my leadership team to be like, hey, I kind of see a concern right here. What do you think of this? And they would do that. So. So I see your question there, Don, too. I mean, honestly, I actually thought that those, you could kind of probably create your own survey. Just kind of an anonymous thing. You could. There's creative ways to do that. I honestly thought that LPI survey that you do for the Chiefs Academy and whatnot, that stuff actually gave you some really good. Feedback as well on your different leadership styles and what your tendencies were and how different people perceived you, because you wanted to kind of get it from all different angles. From the people that may there's some folks that may give you a favorable time, and then there's other folks that are gonna be like, no, that's wrong, and this is why you should change and this and that, and you kind of want to find that balance of the people that will the people that will sing your praises and the people that will give it to you straight, and tell you when you're messing up and whatnot. Yeah, I should have figured that out, Don. Yeah. So I did include reserves in the DOC survey, Tom. I mean, you could. It all depends on how plugged into different things your reserves are. I did, and I know that there were a few that did Roger up to it, and did it. And I mean, if you want a holistic view, your reserve crew is just as much a part of your crew as your active duty is as well. Especially at a station, if they're running boats for you, if they're able to step in and do missions, their opinion should be valued for sure. So one of the things on this PowerPoint too, command climate in 4 words: respect, patience, trust, and value. I think we covered just about every bit of that. I think we actually covered that quite a bit on the in the previous discussion. So, that's a good point there, Carl. That's it was. You want to make sure that you're staying engaged with your people, because if you want to be engaged, you want to be just a little bit aloof, just because if you know everything and then something goes wrong, then it's like, well, why didn't you stop it? Because you know everything. You want to keep that little bit of separation, so that if it comes time, where sometimes you have to, sometimes the response is discipline, and you need to make sure that you're not that you still have that line, so to speak. And yes, Bobby, I agree that mess deck atmosphere tells you a lot. Yeah, that the for the minimum 16 results, sometimes you just got to kind of remind the crew over and over again, And when are you required to do it? When within a change of command, or did somebody answer that already? I agree with get the visit from the CMC. Absolutely. That's they're there to help you out. With different issues like that. They can definitely help you. Get some different issues resolved, and they can definitely be there for a good outside perspective to All right, so I'm trying to figure out where exactly we left off, but my computer right now is not complying the greatest right now with the comments they left on the. Yeah. Gotta love that Comcast internet, Bobby. Let me see. Okay, so I'm just looking at the comments from the previous post, and I see the Eric. I agree with you. I think the reserves they give you definitely a good perspective because they've seen so many different commands there. So I think that's important to keep them to involve them in your different surveys and whatnot. Yeah, I know, Jason. Apparently, I'm paying a pretty penny right now for the internet that I got, and it isn't good enough apparently. So I got to pay more. So it is what it is. And you guys were right. 6 months within a change of command is when you're going to do that DEOC survey, but that's for your units that will be large enough to have a survey. So, a couple of the other comments. I'm trying to find the rest of the comments here, but it's of course. So, we talked about respect, patience, trust, and value. So you got to have that patience with your crew. You gotta show it, in that board setting too. That you are going to be patient with them. That you're not just gonna immediately look to fry somebody for something. You don't need to. You don't want to be in that room setting it up like you've got someone that's going to be a fall guy for anything like that. You want to make sure that you're honest and genuine, and that this. This OIC group is a good example of it. We're all mentoring our reliefs. And you want to mentor your folks with a positive environment. So you want to convey that in the board setting. And yes, Tom, I agree. Yeah, you want to. Yes, those folks that are outside of the chain of command, when they come on board, and they're talking, when they do their outbrief and they say everyone was so helpful, everybody wanted to, was very eager to, to help out, to show us, the different things, what have you. If they're saying that your folks were, very helpful throughout the process, I think that's a good gauge for your command climate, and that's one of the things you want to come across in the OIC board setting, for sure. So what other questions do we got, fellas? Got a little bit more time. Let's see. So that trust is a big one, though. That's probably the biggest one, is because especially at a station, when you've got 23-year-old bosun mate, as the duty coxswain responding to SAR calls, God only knows how far offshore. what have you. That there's a lot of trust there. So you want to create an environment, where they understand, that they have a large responsibility, but they're ready to carry out that responsibility. So you want to prep for your board in that way, so to speak, because that's one of those easy ways to make sure that you get that point across. So what if your XBO, EPO aren't aligning with your command philosophy, which creates a rocky climate? So that's a good one. You want to. We're not all gonna agree all the time, but it's I would you've got to. There's got to be a common ground where everybody comes together and everybody realizes that no matter what our differences are behind closed doors, when we come out that door, we have to be on the same page. Because if we're not, then the crew's going to see right through that, and that's just going to erode any sort of command climate that we're trying to build. Did I ever change my command philosophy during a tour? I actually kept the same one up for 3 years at Eaton's Neck, and I can't speak for for Shearwater yet, just because it could, things could change, but I tried to stick with it as best as possible. The thing with this too is that when you're coming up with these these mission statements and command philosophy and whatnot, you've got to vet these things through people that you trust. You got to vet them, with people that will give you honest, constructive feedback. When I came up with my command philosophy for Eaton's Neck, I vetted it through no less than 24 leaders that I respected and admired over the years. And I asked them to, find holes in this thing. Find where you could use my words against me, kind of thing. And when I took everybody's feedback into consideration, and I tweaked things here and there, and my final product, I was very proud of my final product. And if you guys look me up in Global, the only Anthony Martinez that's Master Chief Boatswain in the Coast Guard. If you look me up in Global, I'll gladly email you a copy of it for sure. As if you'd like to take a look or whatever. Like I said, Shearwaters is still under development. But it'll be coming very soon. So, like I said, I guess it depends on the verbiage. There's some things that I'm going to change from last tour to this tour as far as verbiage wise. But that's just because it's a different dynamic, between a float and a shore. So, hope that answers your question, Jake. All right, Tommy, let's see what do you got there. What do you do if you have an EPO that doesn't want to be or shows no interest in being involved in the command cadre personnel issues? I think you need to get them to their the succession of the command. It's pretty clear that they need to be a part of it, whether they want to or not. You need to get them involved with that for sure. So I would definitely, if they don't want to be engaged, it's tough. They need to be engaged. They're part of the leadership team. Thank you for that kind plug there, Jason. Speaking of plugs, the other thing that for the mock boards, for those of you guys that are sitting, I would strongly recommend the mock board. It'll definitely help you out for sure with that prep. I know we did a few with the Zoom meetings last year, and it definitely helps some folks out for sure. So I would recommend that. If you can't get on one of the Zoom boards, I would see what you can do locally. We did some mock boards locally as well in Long Island, and both candidates made it through. So I would definitely recommend, and I think they're starting for, it's going to be from 2 to 4 weeks, for 2 to 4 weeks, and then it's going to be starting August 19th is what Nick has on the schedule. So, Nick, you guys did a great job with creating this virtual OIC college. And then I got to plug Garrett Daly, too, because he created this whole group. And he brought a lot of folks together in Chalks and Cape May. So if I see you, Garrett, use his video. I definitely gotta get you a beverage or something for sure. Let's see. So it was asked that past pre-board caught me off guard. Okay, yeah, and that's the thing, Tommy, is you wanna bring these things to light for the folks that haven't sat before, because they don't know what to expect. I remember walking in and as a BMC, walking into a board not knowing what to expect, and it was nerve-wracking. So definitely get that. Okay, all right, fellas. Is there any other questions or anything else that anybody wants to discuss for the evening? All right. Well, thank you guys for your attention and your questions. And if you'd like to reach out, please give me a shout. Like I said, the only Anthony Martinez, Master Chief Postmate in the Coast Guard.